So it's my turn to get to do children's conversation. And I want to let our parents know that as we are making plans for Sunday school starting up again, we're going to be using our children's conversation, this time on Sunday mornings, to introduce the lesson that we're going to be using in Sunday school. Right now, we email all our households with kids the materials for this week's lesson. And we're going to continue to do that, actually probably going forward, but certainly until we can bring our kids safely back together again. Now, our lesson for today relates to being ready for things. And for those of you who are scouts, maybe you know the motto, be prepared. Jesus liked to teach people using stories called parables. Sometimes we can really relate to what happens in one of those parables. But sometimes the stories from 2,000 years ago have details that aren't the same as life today. So it makes them a little harder to understand. Now, today's story is about being prepared. Now, if we wrote a parable about being prepared today, it might be something like, if you were going to take a trip, it'd be having enough gas in our cars so that we're ready to go. So that if somebody read, though, that parable in 2,000 years, they might wonder what gas was and how cars worked. Actually, I kind of hope that in just a few decades, people were wondering what gas was. But anyway, way back in Jesus' day, when families arranged marriages, that was different, they arranged marriages, the groom would come to the bride's house for the wedding. Now, you couldn't text somebody and let them know when you were going to get there. And travel back then, it could be easy to be delayed. And people would have no idea when you'd arrive. So the bride's friends might gather with her and get ready with her. And when the groom arrived, they would have a celebratory walk through the streets on their way to the wedding party. Now, if the groom came at night, they would each need a lamp to walk safely. There were no street lights or flashlights back then. And lamps were these little bowls, and they had a little spout on the top of them, and they were filled with oil, and they had a wick in them. And they would burn. So without the oil, there was no fire. No fire meant no light. And no light meant that you didn't get to have the parade, and you just stayed home. So here's the parable that Jesus told. 10 bridesmaids. Jesus told a story about getting ready. 10 bridesmaids ran down the road holding their lamps to light the way. "The groom is coming," they shouted excitedly. But the groom was late, and they had to wait. "We're so tired," said the bridesmaids. 10 bridesmaids closed their eyes. Later, there was a shout, "He's here!" 5 bridesmaids jumped up and poured oil in their lamps to keep them burning. But the other 5 bridesmaids forgot to bring extra oil for their lamps. "Give us some of your oil," they told the first 5 bridesmaids. "Sorry, there is not enough for everybody," they replied. 5 happy bridesmaids ran down the road to the wedding, leaving 5 sad bridesmaids who couldn't go. Jesus said, "I'm coming to meet you again. Be ready for me to come wherever you may be." What might Jesus have been asking people to do in this story? Is there someone you know who's having some really hard days? No one knows exactly what will happen. So Jesus teaches us to be prepared, because sometimes there are challenges that we need to be ready to face. You pray with me. Dear God, help our faith be ready to encounter you in the world as we see you at work in the hands of others and in the faces of those who suffer, and even sometimes when we look in the mirror. You know who that person is that we were thinking about who is having hard days? Let's say the name of a friend right now who is having a hard time. Stacy Brunner. God be with these people today. Amen.